For most people today, beauty seems to follow one rule: flat stomach, slim waist, tight body. Everywhere you look, social media, movies, fashion, thinness is presented as the ultimate goal. But this idea is actually very new. For thousands of years, many cultures around the world believed the opposite. In fact, in several countries and tribes, a big belly was not something to hide. It was something to celebrate. It meant wealth, health, respect, and even power. In some places, the bigger the belly, the higher your status. And this wasn't just about women. In some cultures, men with large stomachs were considered the most attractive of all. Let's start in Africa, where body size has long carried deep cultural meaning. In southern Nigeria, particularly in Akwa Ibom state among the Ibibio people, a fuller body was traditionally seen as a sign of good living. In earlier times, food was not always available, and life depended heavily on farming, weather, and family support. So when someone had a visibly well-fed body, it meant their family was doing well. It meant they were cared for, stable, and respected. Women preparing for marriage were sometimes encouraged to gain weight before their wedding, not as punishment, not as control, but as pride. Among the Efik and Ibibio peoples, Mbodi, bride fattening, is a cultural practice. Mbodi is a rite of passage which subject women of marriageable age to undergo the process. Let's take you on a tour to Cross River in southern Nigeria, where the Efik and Ibibio ethnic groups are located. Among the Efik and Ibibio peoples, Mbodi, bride fattening, is a cultural practice. Mbodi is a rite of passage which subject women of marriageable age to undergo the process of body fattening. The fattening process involves the continuous feeding of would-be brides to make them add extra weight. In these cultural communities, a fat would-be bride is considered beautiful and presentable to the future husband. Girls are taken to this room in order to be prepared for womanhood. Acceptance into the fattening room was viewed as a privilege, as it was a demonstration of virtue and sexual purity. To the Efiks, the ability of the young girl to gain weight in the fattening room was a sign that she possessed all the above-mentioned qualities. The concluding ceremony is a vibrant and meaningful event, where the bride is presented before the community. She is adorned with intricate traditional beads and shimmering jewels, symbolizing her new status and beauty. As she stands before family and friends, the air fills with music and lively dancing, reflecting the joy of the occasion. Gifts are offered to honor her journey, marking her official transition into womanhood and readiness for marriage. This celebration not only recognizes her personal growth, but also strengthens the bonds within the community. Mbodi is a rite of passage which prepares a young woman for marriage and is done when the bride price has been paid. Once in the fattening room, the girls are kept away from their family members, friends, and neighbors. The only visitors allowed are the elderly women in the community who come to imbibe lessons on marital etiquette and acceptable social customs and behavior. The girls are also fed heavy meals rich in carbohydrate and fat like ibe, porridge made from cassava tubers, and native vegetable soups with little or nothing to do. The girls also enjoy an all-around beauty treatment from head to feet, using what is called endom, native chalk, and other massage oils made from natural plants. This training in beauty therapy is carried out over a period of 1 month or more, so the difference will be obvious when they're out. At the elapse of the allotted time, the bride is paraded in the market square, placed on a horse or carried by able-bodied men. She wears ireke, native beads, which are wrapped around her waist. She wears precious jewels called entong on her wrists and legs. At some points, she is brought down to dance, and as she dances, people shower her with gifts. A fuller figure showed that the woman came from a family that could provide, and that her future household would be prosperous. Beauty here was not about being thin. It was about showing that life was good. But Nigeria was not the only place where this idea existed. In Ethiopia, among the Bodi tribe, beauty and status were tied directly to how big a man's belly could become. Every year, the Bodi people hold a traditional ceremony where young men compete to be crowned the fattest man in the community. For months, these men intentionally prepare by drinking large amounts of milk and animal blood, carefully following cultural traditions passed down for generations. The goal is not speed or strength, the goal is size. A large stomach represents discipline, honor, and dedication to tradition. The man with the biggest belly earns respect and admiration, not ridicule. In this culture, a fat belly is a badge of honor. It shows that a man is strong enough to commit fully to the process and worthy of recognition. Again, this belief didn't come from nowhere. It came from environment and survival. In places where food could be scarce, being well-fed meant success. It meant protection. It meant your community could support you. Thinness did not signal beauty, it signaled struggle. The body became a living symbol of stability. This same logic appeared across the continent. In parts of West and North Africa, including Mauritania, larger bodies were traditionally associated with wealth and marriageability. In harsh desert climates where survival was difficult, having extra body fat meant security. It meant you were less likely to suffer during hard times. For many families, a fuller body showed that a person was well cared for and came from a strong household. Beauty was practical. It followed reality. And this idea was not limited to Africa. If we travel back in time to Europe during the Renaissance, we see the same pattern. In famous paintings from that era, women are shown with soft, full bodies. These artists were not imagining beauty, they were recording it. In those times, only the wealthy could eat well and avoid physical labor. So a fuller body meant privilege. Thinness was associated with poverty and illness. Being large meant you lived comfortably. Beauty followed economics. The Pacific Islands shared similar beliefs. In places like Samoa and Tonga, body size was linked to strength, leadership, and authority. A larger body meant presence. It meant power. Leaders were expected to look strong and commanding, not fragile. Once again, the body reflected values. What a society admired depended on what it needed to survive. So why did all of this change? Why do so many cultures today push the same narrow beauty standard? The shift came with industrialization, colonization, and globalization. As food became more available and physical labor decreased, body size stopped being a sign of survival and started being seen as something to control. Western media spread new ideals through magazines, television, movies, and eventually social media. Thinness became associated with discipline and modern life. One beauty standard began to dominate the world, pushing local traditions aside. At the same time, modern science and health awareness began to grow. People started learning more about nutrition, heart health, diabetes, and the risks associated with excessive weight. Medical knowledge changed how bodies were viewed. What was once seen as a sign of prosperity began to be associated with potential health concerns. This shift was not about beauty alone, but about longevity, well-being, and quality of life. But history tells us something important. Beauty has never been universal. It has always been shaped by environment, culture, and survival. What one society praises, another questions. What is admired today may not be admired tomorrow. In many cultures, big bellies once meant success, respect, and beauty. Not shame, not failure, not something to hide. Understanding this doesn't mean promoting one body type over another. It means recognizing that beauty is not fixed. It evolves. It changes with time, place, and values. And when we look back at cultures like the Ibibio of Nigeria or the Body tribe of Ethiopia, we see that bodies were once celebrated for what they represented, not judged for how they compared. Because beauty was never meant to be one size. It was meant to tell a story. And across the world, those stories are far more diverse and far more fascinating than we are usually taught.